Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Let's go.
Peace. This is The Enemy's Public, and I am Bro.Nasir. I hope everyone is having a great evening. This evening, we're going to talk about Trump's presidency, even though it just started not even a month ago. This video was originally planned for last week, but I decided to do it today. And you know, a F up would be who he is. In just under 2 weeks, Donald Trump has done so much damage, you know, with his tactics that are illegal, most of them that were blocked by judges, you know, trying to cut programs that he knows that people need. Some of these young mothers, some of these children need these programs, and he saw fit to inflict some punishment on some civic programs and some programs that people need to suffice themselves as families. Thankfully, some of these judges in certain states blocked them. Thankfully, some of these judges, you know, have heart, and some of these governors are like, no, we're not doing this in my state. You know, I don't even subscribe to America's politics, left or right. So just because I'm speaking about Trump, don't think for a second that I'm some type of Democrat, because I'm not. 4 years ago, I was telling my people that they were going to be complaining about Joe Biden when he became president, telling my people that we need to not look for or expect a benevolent politician to do for us what we are capable of doing for ourselves. These presidents, they would get up on the podium and they would say what people want to hear, yet they don't have any intentions of doing things for our people in particular that's tangible. For some reason, our people think because Donald Trump would inflict pain and suffering on other people that it's beneficial to us. A lot of my people rock with Donald Trump. A lot of my people do. And a lot of the people who Donald Trump are inflicting certain pains to was stumping for him also. And I'd like to know, how is that working out for them? Some of these very people who ICE is running down on and putting into vans and putting them on airplanes, trying to ship them back to where they came from, was stumping for Donald Trump. They were actual Trumpers. And I don't understand. It seems as if our people are going backwards, because with our eyes open wide and we're thinking with a clear head, we would know emphatically that no politician have anything for us. See, we got a lot of this going on these platforms. Brothers in particular are smoking and drinking, getting high, getting on a live stream and becoming philosophical. You know, saying a whole lot of BS that's I don't know what's on their mind. I guess it's their sentiment about how they feel about things. But a lot of these brothers are becoming philosophical, and they're not even using their minds, thinking. Peace to my brother Wild Savage. Thanks for tapping in. Thinking that a president or any politician has something for our people. They do have something for us, but I can guarantee we're not going to like what this politician have for us. Now, I'm going to, do a video presentation, and I'll give my narrative of what I see as far as Trump's presidency. But my sentiment, and it's just February, he hasn't been in the office for an entire month yet. And I'm saying that we should brace ourselves for impact, because Donald Trump is the anomaly that will cause the destruction of America as we know it, with his wanting to be the boss. Donald Trump thinks that the president is the boss, when the president is not the boss. The president is the face of the corporation. This having been a government for quite some time. It's been a corporation that elects a president every 3.5, 4 years. And he actually think that he's the boss. And he will be shown very quickly if he do and say the wrong things by his own constituents, that he's not the boss. Now I'm going to do this video presentation, and I'll give my narrative as I go on. We're going to start with Jasmine Crockett speaking about some of the bills that were frozen that he attempted to freeze, that some of the people in the United States needed.
Good evening. Sorry to keep you waiting. I decided to do an IG live before I walked in. As you know, there's so many people that are in angst and very concerned with the current administration that has been in for a whopping 8 days. And just imagine, we've got to go through this for a total of 4 years. I think that today will probably mean more to my district than my last swearing in, because we are definitely living in scarier times. And so I am so
Peace to my brother Maybach, my brother T. Cortez. Thanks for tapping in. I appreciate it.
elated and grateful, number one, to have another opportunity to serve, but more importantly, to be able to share in my swearing in for a second term with the people that send me to DC. And again, the only people that can fire me, regardless of how many other people around the country want me to be fired. I want my district to always know that they will always be my priority and they are always my focus, even when I can't physically be present, because if some of you noticed, I ended up traveling the country, doing my best to try to prevent what is happening right now. And so I am so grateful to my district, because in my absence, they still gave me the strongest numbers of any challenged Democrat or Republican in the state of Texas that was seeking re-election. It was a testament to what they believe I can accomplish and what it is that I was able to accomplish. So with that, that's just my few opening remarks, but I want to make sure I get to y'all's questions. I heard y'all know all the rules, so we can start with whoever wants to go first.
Representative, I'm Teresa Woodard from WFAA,
Yeah.
ABC station here in Dallas. I'd like to talk to you about this
Yeah.
funding freeze.
Yeah.
This is money that Congress
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
So, Congresswoman, do you believe that what the president did is legal?
No, I don't. In short, I don't believe that the president has this authority. The president.
That's why it was overturned and he had to rescind it because it was illegal. The president can't do anything without Congress. See, that's the thing. Congressmen and women are elected also. He can't go to them and say you're fired. The president can't fire a congressman or woman, but he can only fire someone that he hires. And they can always say, no, that's illegal. You're not going to freeze funds for certain programs that you know people with less resources need.
Did say as he campaigned that he would be a dictator on day one. It sounds like he's going to continue to try his best to be a dictator. The reality is that we go through appropriations every single year. And when we go through appropriations, number one, that is because there is only one body that has the power of the purse, and that is the Congress. It has to go through 535 people and then be signed into law by one president. And so we have monies that have been appropriated by law. And so no swipe of a pen can just delete that and stop that. And unfortunately, we have someone who has a Supreme Court that he handpicked that has definitely tested the bounds of law. I think right now what we see.
That's the thing with Donald Trump. He will test the bounds of the law, thinking that he can actually change what's already signed into law, violate laws that's in the Constitution, the amendments, and thinking that he can determine what goes on in states that already have governors. It trickles down from Washington, but once that money is approved and appropriated, it's nothing that a president can do. That's not in his hands. He himself have to pass things through Congress before he can do anything. But for some reason, some frozen reason, this man thinks he's in charge. He do.
See is we have a president that is going to continue to push those bounds and test those bounds. And unfortunately, if this Supreme Court does not get it right, it will be disastrous for the Republic as a whole. The reality is that I was able to at least get a glimpse into how I feel like the Supreme Court will conduct themselves when it came down to the TikTok ban. Now, I know a lot of people feel a way about TikTok, but from a legal standpoint, at the end of the day, it was signed into law by Biden. And he was attempting to stop what had been signed into law and had been passed through both chambers. And in a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court determined that he was unable to do that. So with that being said, if they keep up this type of energy, I think that we will see his attempt at getting rid of birthright citizenship, which if you are going to have any protections in this country, the strongest protections aren't even the fact that we pass.
Which is insane, in my opinion, because if Donald Trump abolish birthright citizenship as a man whose family origin is Germany and who has an immigrant wife. See, this is the thing when you have someone who was convicted of 34 charges, 34 convictions, and was able to still run for president. This lets us know that the United States government, I don't care if it's municipal, state, federal, or executive, everybody is crooked. Everybody. And everybody is lawless. They can care nothing about the law. Now, a lot of brothers and sisters, or people in general, who are convicted of a crime, they can't get the most mediocre jobs with a felony. But a man who was convicted of 34 charges can still run for the highest office in the land. That lets us know that the entire government is a cesspool and don't care anything about law and order and what's best for the people of the United States. They could care less. I know some of my people, I don't know. I don't know what they're ingesting. I don't know what they're drinking. I don't know what they're smoking. But it's clouding their brains. And they stump hard for Donald Trump or any politician. We have gone backwards. We're going backwards thinking that politicians going to do something for us. And some of our people looking at this man like he is the return of Christ. Those who don't even subscribe to religion is looking at this man like he's a savior. But they don't subscribe to religion, though.
A law. Our strongest protections arise out of our Constitution in and of itself. And so if you want to undo or change something in the Constitution, well, it takes a lot of work. It's a lot more than just passing a law. We've got to make sure that we have ratification. We've got to go to the states. The states will have to vote, and you got to get 2/3. So I don't think that anything is going to happen to our Constitution just yet. But it is scary that we have someone in the White House that absolutely does not care about the Constitution. And
I've been around 59 years. And as someone who understood what I was listening to, I haven't seen anyone who cared about the Constitution. Most of these constituencies in government wipe their backside with the Constitution. They desecrate it on a daily basis. A power-hungry devil feel that they're above reproach and above the laws governed by the land. They could care less, and they use the same crooked, wicked tactics that they've been using all of their life. Nobody just start being like this. If you see someone that display this behavior, that is their character, and they always been like this.
And does not care about the law. But we knew this. As the only convicted felon to occupy the White House, he's never had any respect for the law. And I honestly don't see him changing his tune anytime soon. Now, we'll see if he ends up running up against a bunch of Eileen Cannon judges who will just ignore the law. But as of right now, I can tell you that at least one district court judge in D.C. has decided that she was going to swipe down some of his attempts. That doesn't deal with everything, though. And to be perfectly honest, the White House is saying one thing while the OMB office is sending out different things. We also know that the Medicaid website went down. It just so happens that it's allegedly a glitch at the same time that we are saying that no, the OMB said that some of these things are not allowed to receive funding. So, Head Start, Meals on Wheels, SNAP benefits, LIHEP, rural electric funds, all these things are in limbo, as well as infrastructure projects where people literally made contracts knowing that they were getting this money. And so I am applauding those attorney generals in states that are democratically controlled, because those are the attorney generals that have decided to come together. And frankly, if the Republican states are not interested in seeking out the funds that I'm sure Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, the funds that I'm sure that they really need more than some of these other states, then frankly, that's okay. If they don't want their money, then don't get it. We'll take it all. Next.
And I would imagine you're getting a lot of calls from your constituents now. Have you talked to anyone locally? Have they been told anything about how this would directly impact them?
Yeah. No, I've not talked to anyone myself. Thank God for my staff. I've not talked to anyone directly. I just know that I've been receiving, if it's someone that has my personal cell phone number, I've been receiving panicked text about everything from birthright citizenship to whether or not, even when I got my hair done today, as y'all know, I had braids and I don't anymore. But even my hairstylist was very concerned and was asking questions. So everyone is paying attention. So I will say that he's awakened everyone to the extent that they're paying attention to government. But right now, I'm going to be honest, this administration is sending out mixed signals. At the end of the day, whichever signals they're sending out, I personally believe from my legal training that all of it is illegal, regardless of which mixed signals they're sending out. And the question is how quickly we can get into court and whether or not we will have more judges that are more loyal to Trump, or if they are more loyal to the Constitution and the oath that they swore.
Congresswoman, I'm Dave Tappett from Dallas Voice,
Yes.
Your downstairs neighbor. As a strong advocate for civil rights, what do you see as the most urgent legislative priority to protect the LGBT community, especially after some of these horrible executive orders that have come out this week?
Yeah, it's looking at our civil rights as a whole.
Now, I'm going to jump from that part because that's not something that I'm concerned with. Because when it comes to human rights, even civil rights, someone wanting protections based on a sexuality and expect to get them is kind of wild to me. I believe in human rights. I can care less what a man or woman do when they're not in my presence, and it should be kept in the bedroom. But as far as, stumping for people for sexuality, that is absolutely insane to me. Now, one thing that Donald Trump said that he would do that I agree with, and that's this bathroom thing. Men being able to go into a woman's bathroom, boys being able to go in the girl's bathroom, and vice versa. That I agree with. And I agree also with the gender thing. I agree with that also. 2 genders. I agree with that. But I'm still not under no illusion that Donald Trump will actually do something for us. But some of our people think that he's going to do something for us. All I'm going to say is, in no limit of time, those who thought that, those who had that frame of mind, is going to be disappointed. And you set yourself up for disappointment by having faith in a system that has never been for our people. And while I'm on this, subject, if nothing happened to us as a people, how did we get in the position that we're in? How are the people that's running not the United States, but damn near the whole world, how did they get in the position they're in? And how did we get in the position that we're in? Did we give it to them? Or was it taken from us? Because the ignorant among us try to tell us that we're the landlords of the land. It's ours. Slavery never happened, while some of them display a slave mentality. The Willie Lynch letter is fake, while we display some of the behaviors of the Willie Lynch letter. All these feel-good moments, it's potentially ours, but nothing is yours until it's in your hand. We need to do what it takes to acquire that position in this society. Not just constantly say that it exists, knowing damn well it doesn't. Now we could say being it is with our actions. By coming together. We don't have a problem with coming together. It's what we do when we come together that is the problem. Some of our people don't even want to organize. don't even want to organize. And we expect to acquire anything tangible for our people. It shouldn't even be the point of us asking somebody for something. We have over $1 trillion in this economy. That's more than a lot of nations. Our people alone, over $1 trillion. But what we do, we run and we put it into some salesman's hand. Or those of us who have a little more than our own people, we look down on them because our enemy will always give us enough to look down on our own people. But I tell you what you do. If you want to see their true colors, try doing something for your own people with that money that you got and see how fast that person who you thought was your friend turn on you. We can have a little more than each other and we'll look down on each other. We squad up for the most ignorant reasons. We have an open and consistent enemy. But we turn a blind eye to it. And we see our own brother and sisters as our enemy, looking at each other through the eyes of our enemy. That has to stop. And another thing that has to stop, referring to those who came before us with all these negative connotations: sellout, boule, agent, turncoat. Sitting up on social media all day, how are you acquiring the things that you say you have and the things that you're doing when you're on social media all day? I don't know if it's a snapback. I don't know if it's a fitted, but it's a lot of capping going on. Because the only thing that the only way we're going to get something, acquire something, is we get to work. We have to get to work. And we got to work on behalf of our people. Our people years ago didn't have what we have. They had to actually meet up. They couldn't contact each other wherever they was at in the world. They had to wait till each other got home, and when they met, they had to actually meet. They didn't have this. And they still whipped our ass when it comes to organizing and getting some things done. And they had this. It's already shameful what they've done compared to what we're doing, which is zero. Zero. But we have the nerve to speak about our elders that way. The nerve when, regardless to how little yardage that they gained, our black ass is enjoying it. But we say they dropped the ball, looking right at the damn ball. I said this before. We look right at the ball and say they dropped the ball. Instead of picking it up, we look at it and enjoy the yardage that they gained. I don't disrespect those who stood and acted on my behalf. I don't do that. We have obvious sellouts, coons. Obvious. I tell you what's going to happen. Our enemies, foreign and domestic, they're going to come after us to force our hands. We'll have no choice but to unite and take care of business. It's coming. And when that safety net is pulled from under our ass and we don't have nobody but each other, that's what our people need. To have nobody but each other. Either we're going to kill each other or we're going to squad up. That's what needs to happen.
In addition to the fact that what we're experiencing is they went after our education with the affirmative action decision. This is kind of a bleed over, but this all goes to economics, right? At a time in which we still can't get anyone to agree to raise the minimum wage, which hasn't been raised in probably close to 20 years now that we're going on, we see that the billionaire class is continuously overnight just making more and more money. I mean, the richest man in the world literally made like another $200 billion like in the few days after the election, right? And so what we've got to do is make sure that, number one, we're not allowing people to divide us, because I will be honest, we were divided in this election about trans folk. That's just a reality. And then Democrats started falling apart about trans folk because they felt as if it was seeping through. The reality is that when we start to talk about trans folk make up probably less than they make up less than 1% of who we are in this country. But if you allow them to divide us over trans rights, then they can divide us over immigration, which they did that as well. It's the division that is killing us.
But it is, in every aspect, the smallest minority of people have the most control. The smallest amount, the smallest minority of people have the most control. She's right. She's right. And as far as oppression, you can't compare that to what we go through. You cannot compare that what we go through, something that's literally a choice, against things that you cannot help, which is who your mother and father is and the color of your damn skin. Can't help that. Everything else is a damn choice.
And the reality is that it's not really about whether or not you agree, like it, love it, or understand it. It's about understanding that this is supposed to be the land of opportunity and the land of the free for all. And so we've got to stand together. So the one plea that I will have is that I want us to stand together. Let's stand with our LGBTQIA community. Let's stand with our immigrant community. Let's stand with Black folk. Let's stand with women. Let's stand together, because there's more of us than there are of the select few that are pushing this white supremacy agenda. We cannot get caught up in it. And when you look back at the playbook of Hitler, when you look back at the playbook of the KKK, it never was just about Black people. It's the exact same people that they're pointing fingers at and that they went after. And so I am encouraging everyone to stand together.
Congresswoman, you mentioned that the last 8 days has been a lot of information. And while you're a great messenger for the Democrats, it doesn't really feel like there's been one central message. I know there's a lot to respond to, but over the next 4 years, how do Democrats, start on kind of fixing this messaging problem and actually
I want to move on from this
and responding to some
and go to the next video.
being thrown at y'all?
I'm going to go to the next video.
Another executive order signed by the president, causing some chaos for groups here in Central Florida. It freezes spending on most federal grants and loans, something many area nonprofits rely on to operate. News 6's Mark Lehman is following the story live this morning. And Mark, a judge has blocked this funding freeze, at least for now.
Yeah, a lawsuit brought by nonprofit groups led to an administrative stay through next week. It's a brief reprieve for programs that depend on federal funds, but those we spoke with here in Orlando say they still have concerns about their future.
Once that money is allocated to the states, it's in the hands of the governor. Then it trickles down to certain cities, counties in that state. President can't come and say freeze nothing because that money was already allocated to those states. That's on the governor.
Day's been very busy, but it's filled still with a lot of unknowns.
As CEO of Orlando's Homeless Services Network, Martha R. says her nonprofit is filled with uncertainty. It's happening after a memo from the Office of Management and Budget to freeze funding for almost all federal grants and loans.
You know, across our system, not just with us, but it could hinder the ability to keep shelters open. It could hinder the ability to pay rent for some people.
President Trump issuing the freeze to ensure federal spending complies with his recent executive orders to bring an end to Democrat-backed initiatives.
It means no more funding for illegal.
You know, basically, the only people I can see adhering to these fund freezing would probably be the Republican states. Democratic states is not going to adhere to this. They're not. They're just not saying that they're better. It's just they're merely another party, an opposing party, and they're not going to adhere to it. And even some of the Republican states are not going to adhere to this fund freeze because they know the people in their state need it. They need these funds.
Legal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars.
The White House stressing direct assistance like Social Security and Medicare are not affected. Meanwhile, there are thousands of organizations that rely on federal funds. And while a judge has temporarily paused the freeze, they're wondering what will happen next.
We're very much trying to be proactive and do everything we can do, but we're also trying to stay calm.
Now, the Homeless Services Network here says they will continue to monitor for any updates. Now, that hold on the temporary freeze on funding is only for existing programs, and it will be addressed Monday afternoon. We're now reporting live.
Now we're going to move on from there and go to the next video, which is the observance of.
We're following breaking news from Washington.
The Pentagon agency has banned observances for Black History Month and other special observances. I don't know about the other special observances, but when it comes to Black History Month, that is not up to a president, the Pentagon, the defense agencies, none of them. It's not up to them whether or not we celebrate our heritage or not. First, 1 month cannot hold our heritage and cannot hold our history. We should be teaching it, even though we do. Most of us teach our heritage every day, every minute of the day. But the special observance of Black History Month, I don't know who these people think they are that they can just actually say that and we're going to adhere to it. Let them wait on us adhering because they said they're going to ban observances for Black History Month. They might be able to control those who work in that agency, which I hope that's who they're talking about. But if they're talking about the totality of our people in the United States, they are out there rabbit-ass minds.
Washington, where as part of President Trump's pushback on diversity and inclusion initiatives, NBC News has learned that the Defense Intelligence Agency has ordered a pause on all events related to MLK Day or Black History Month, which we should note begins tomorrow. Joining us now with more, NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell, Atlantic staff writer Ashley Parker, and Aaron Haynes, editor-in-chief at the 19th. So, Kelly, this follows a string of anti-DEI initiatives and messaging from the White House. What's this one about?
Well, certainly what we're seeing is that in this particular agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, there is a memo that has been distributed to staff members making clear that the agency will not support any celebration, commemoration, events associated with Black History Month, Martin Luther King Day, and so forth. Now, Martin Luther King Day is enshrined in federal law as a federal holiday, so it's unclear what that means in terms of how that would be observed. Federal workers do not have to come to work on a federal holiday, to state the obvious. So one of the questions we hope to learn more about is how widespread is this approach? President Trump has been very clear in his public statements and in his use of various instruments with a pen, meaning a memo or an executive order or the various things that we've been seeing him sign since he came into office, very clearly saying that he wants to root out DEI programming and hiring related practices and so forth. And
now, if you look at his entire administration, this man is speaking against DEI, and his whole entire administration is a bunch of incapable people that will listen to him, because Donald Trump don't care nothing about you doing your job. He wants you to do what he tells you. And he lowered the standards. They say DEI lowered standards, and he lowered the standard starting with himself as far as being qualified to run an office in his constituents who he put in charges of certain agencies. He said it creates division instead of unity. What creates more division besides being a racist ass bastard? And instead of hiring someone who's qualified, you rather hire a yes man or a yes woman. And then he said DEI is a form of reverse discrimination. That's the same as saying reverse racism. We don't have the power to be racist. I think some of us think that we do. Some of us think we have power. I'm going to tell you what can give us power. What can give us power overnight, as a matter of fact, in a matter of minutes, what can give us power? That's our unity. I don't mean merely coming together. In mind, body, and soul, our unity will give us instant power. Instant. I'm not just talking about us being among each other, coming together, but our unity, which is what they work night and day to keep from happening. They work night and day on that. These people are wickedly wise. And some of our people don't think for a second that some of the information that we get on social media, because some of us don't like to read, some of us are intellectually lazy. Some of us are intellectually lazy, refuse to study, and we click on the first thing that we see. I don't even think some of us look for the truth. Salute to my brothers, the realest McCoy. Good seeing you, family. I don't even think some of us look for the truth, especially when we have an opponent that we want to show up. We don't look for the truth. Some of these brothers, and I'm always going to say the brothers, are some, I know something that you don't know as Negroes. That's the main thing. When people come up, you could be talking about something totally different, and they'll come up with something that they know that they think you don't know. So they mention that instead of building on the subject that you were talking about. That's why I say it's a bunch of intellectual mass debaters. Everything is a damn debate. But nobody wants to come and offer solid solutions to the many problems that we have. And our main problem is we don't know how to behave when we get among each other. The disrespect over information, the disrespect that our brothers show each other, and they're going back and forth, don't even know how to argue in the best manner. I've seen wicked ass crackers debate civilized and don't call each other out their names. But we can't even argue in the best of manner. And we don't look for the truth. We look for something that is contrary to what our opponent is going to say. We could care less about what the truth is. Why? Because the truth is final. That's why. Once the truth is out, it's final. We don't want no finalization. We want ongoing bullshit. That's what we like. We show up for it. We love it. Like pigs love slop. We love it.
And as he has described it, he wants the best people, regardless of what they look like or how they speak or how they live. And so is this a broad policy that will affect all parts of the federal government, or was this the interpretation of a given agency to be in alignment with the White House? Part of what this new Trump administration has been trying to do is to get the federal workforce to be in step with President Trump's priorities and his view of how the federal government should operate in a broad array of areas. And included in that is handling matters that deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. And they have rooted out those programs for funding to say those will no longer be funded. But things like Black History Month, which are celebrated in many different contexts, in workplaces, in communities, and so forth. So we have more questions here about what does this mean, and how will the federal workforce note what have been longstanding practices in American culture to honor Black History Month and other kinds of.
Now, the Pentagon, they say they won't celebrate MLK Day, Black History Month, or Juneteenth. See, they're saying they won't celebrate, nothing to do with us, even though they got some of us in that agency. Because if you look at what they said he won't celebrate, everything has something to do with us. But I guarantee they'll celebrate Lincoln's birthday, Washington's birthday, 4th of July, all these other holidays. Well, I call them holidays. Guarantee they celebrate those. But what has to happen with our people? We should never ask the government when it comes to us celebrating ourselves. We shouldn't ask nobody. We should declare it and make it happen. That's what we should do. Declare it and make it happen. It's not up to them. what we do when it comes to us. It's not their business and it's not up to them. Nobody asking them for permission to do nothing, and we should stop asking them for permission to do anything. Declare it and take it.
Initiatives that lift up parts of our large community, whether it's persons with disabilities, whether it's women's issues, the whole array of things. But at the moment, because as you point out, February 1st begins Black History Month, how will it play out on the federal level? That's part of what we're trying to pursue. We have evidence now of an agency saying no activities, and we want to find out how broad it is.
Now I'm going to go to a book that said they predicted Donald Trump's presidency.
A few days ago, while doing some late night research.
And we're going to ask, could Donald Trump actually be the last president? Again, this is my sentiment. I believe Donald Trump is the anomaly that will cause the destruction of the United States as we know it.
I stumbled upon something really interesting. It was a novel written in 1896 called The Last President. Now, I've read a lot of things, but this one caught me off guard. At first, it seemed like just another obscure piece of historical fiction, but the more I dug into it, the more fascinated I became. It was almost like a warning from the past about
Salute Milestone's thoughts. Thanks for tapping in, fam.
What could happen in our near future. In fact, it felt almost eerie. Get this. A political outsider rises to power, dividing the nation in ways we've never seen before. A financial collapse looms on the horizon, and the very fabric of America hangs in the balance. In the book, mobs march on Fifth Avenue, right where Trump Tower stands today. Coincidence? Maybe, but it makes you wonder. With the election just a few weeks away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this book, written more than a century ago, has some uncanny parallels to today. Whether Donald Trump wins the presidency again or not, the question remains, could he, in fact, be America's last president? So let's dive in. What did this book predict about financial collapse, political unrest, and the rise of a populist leader? And more importantly, what could it mean for our future in America?
I want to say this. We need really to put ourselves in position to suffice ourselves. Because if we are in a position of dependence, we are in bad shape. And some of my people have faith that Trump is going to do something to put us in a position of power. And the question I ask is, why would he do that? Because our enemies think that our success is their fate, it's their failure. Just the mere fact that we succeed, no matter how hard we work, their sentiment is that they have failed because we are succeeding. That's their mindset. And if this government, especially financially, if it collapses, if the government collapses and we don't position ourselves to be other than dependents, we are going to be in bad shape. Bad shape. So if we're not talking about uniting and falling in line with each other, we are going to be worse off than we are. Peace to my good brother, Drake Cobb's music. Salute to you, family. We have to position ourselves in a position of power. And how we're going about it, that's not in a position of power. Just us talking about it, and none of us is actually bringing this thing to fruition together. I don't care what you have as an individual. You know, as an individual, I'm not going to say that you're powerless, but when it comes to people coming after you to get what's yours, it's better, that we move as a team. It's better that we train together. It's better that we know each other tactfully. It's better that we know each other like that. That I can keep an eye on you, you can keep an eye on me, and when I move, you move, just like that. We have to organize, strategize, and deputize. And know our positions, know what our post is, and never let no one commit a nuisance on our post. And that includes ourselves. We don't commit a nuisance on our post. And we walk our post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert, being aware of our surroundings. These are what's called general orders. While we BS, others are training to maintain their status. We say we've been classified, and we have. And I'm going to say this. Our enemy knows right from wrong. Okay. Sovereignty papers going into their court of law is not going to make them change a damn thing. Having status correction papers is not going to make them do a damn thing on our behalf. But I guarantee you our unity can change our status. That'll correct our status. I guarantee that. That's a guarantee that our unity can correct our status. When we talk like some of us talk, it's because some of us don't want to get to work, and some of us don't want to fight. Some of us are scared to fight. Whether it's verbally or physical, some of us don't want to fight. Don't want to fight. I'm not saying be the aggressor, but I'm saying fight with those who fight against you. And that's a natural law. That's a right that someone cannot give you or take from you, the right to defend yourself. But we disarm ourselves with our behavior. Because if I look at my brother as my enemy, and you look at me the same way, both of us are vulnerable to our open and consistent and common enemy. Both of us are vulnerable. We need to know that.
So let's start with the first thing that jumped out at me: the night of the election and the last president. The book opens in New York City on November 3rd, 1896, and the scene is one of total shock. People were gathered at their dinner tables, confident about the election results, when suddenly they hear the news: an outsider has won the presidency. This news hits like a bolt of lightning. In minutes, the city erupts into chaos, mobs begin forming, and the entire city is thrown into a panic. Sound familiar? Think back to the 2016 election, or January 6th, or even now with the tensions high with the election. In the book, the mobs start marching towards the wealthiest part of the city, Fifth Avenue in New York City. That's right, Fifth Avenue, right where Trump Tower is located today. The imagery is almost too coincidental. Mobs of angry citizens, feeling betrayed by the elites, marching toward this symbolic center of wealth and power. It's a scene that feels eerily like the growing tensions we've seen in real life, where people are frustrated with the government, financial institutions, and the wealth disparity between the rich and the poor. In The Last President, this unrest spirals into a full-blown crisis. The police and military struggle to maintain order as the mob rages through the streets. They're demanding change and even calling for violence against the rich. Now, here's where it starts to get really interesting. The book doesn't just stop at political unrest. It's as if it predicts the exact kind of populism and division we're living through today. An outsider elected by the people, promising to take on the elites and fight for the common man.
Now, I seen something today. I seen a commercial, a little off topic, but I seen a commercial today. You know, I'm going to start off by saying that what happened to the people's homes in LA, you know, the fires, I wouldn't wish that on someone, that their home get burnt down and they lose all of their things that they acquired. I don't know what they did. I don't even know if they worked hard for it, so I'm not going to even say that. But the things they acquired in the event that they did work hard for it, I'm going to say those who did work hard for their money, I feel for you to acquire what you have, your home, and what's inside your homes. But I seen something today, you know, people asking for donations for multimillionaires' homes, you know, asking poor people for money for millionaires. Some of these people that work in those areas, the essential workers there, can't even afford to live there. They can't live in Malibu, in some of those areas that those, you know, wealthy people live. I seen a commercial where they're asking for donations. Just like the Wounded Warrior Project. The United States government will send soldiers to fight in wars for corporate America, putting a battery in their back and telling them they're fighting for something noble. And then when these soldiers, these brave soldiers, because they're brave, they get wounded, they lose a limb, or their mental capacity is in disarray. They ask us, the taxpayers, to pay for someone who they sent to war. When they come back here after going to war, it should be on the same people that sent them to fight that war. Because you can pay for weapons, you can pay for technology, you can pay for all those things that consist of fighting in a war, but you can't pay the soldier? What sense does that make?
Now, here's where things start to get really strange. Before The Last President was written, the author Ingersoll Lockwood, he published 2 other books about a young aristocrat named Baron Trump. Yeah, you heard that right, Baron Trump. But what's even stranger are the uncanny similarities between this fictional character and the Trump family we know today. In the books, Baron Trump is an aristocratic boy living in a place called Castle Trump. And if that's not enough to raise an eyebrow, his mentor, a man who guides him through his strange journeys, is named Don. So we've got a boy named Baron living in Castle Trump being mentored by a man named Don. The coincidences are almost too bizarre to ignore. And let's not forget the name Pence. In The Last President, one of the president's cabinet secretaries is named Lefroy Pence. Another eerie parallel, given that Mike Pence was Donald Trump's VP. In The Last President, the newly elected leader doesn't come from the political elite. He's an outsider, a man who claims to represent the common people. His platform is simple: take power away from the corrupt elites and give it back to the people. Now that sounds kind of familiar. It's the same kind of campaign speak that Donald Trump used in 2016 to shock the world and win the presidency. Drain the swamp, take back our country, make America great again. All themes that resonate deeply with Americans who feel left behind by the system. In the novel, this populist message sparks a wave of support from the working class and those who feel oppressed by the wealthy elite. The president promises to dismantle the corrupt institutions that have kept the common man down. And as a result, he becomes a beacon of hope for millions of Americans who feel like they've been left behind. The book portrays a country deeply divided between the wealthy elite who fear losing their grip on power and the working class who are desperate for change. This division only grows deeper as a new president.
Yeah, and dumb Negroes is, fell for, the rhetoric that Donald Trump spoke, evidently, because I looked on some of these platforms and these Negroes, and also all over the United States, these Negroes are just, playing monkey see, monkey do with other people who stumps for Donald Trump. A man that don't treat you right will not teach you right. And all you have to do is pay attention to a person's history of what they've done. That lets us know what they'll do. So some of our people think that, just like the last president, some of our people think that Joe Biden changed from the racist he was to the racist that he is today. And some of us think that Donald Trump has changed, evidently. Like he's a different man or something. And also, no one should put 2 things before us and tell us that we have to choose. If both of those pieces of fruit are rotten, why do you think that you gotta choose between 2 pieces of rotten fruit? It makes no sense. They made us think that we had to choose what they put before us. when we could have just said, we sitting this one out. And however it works because it's not going to work for us anyway, so we might as well not be a part of it. But no, we'd rather be a part of it. Our own, it's like putting a gun to your head and firing it, regardless of what side you chose. The jackass or the elephant. Neither one of these parties are ours. We like crashing parties that we're not invited to. We got to stop crashing these parties and stop being the suckers when it comes to American politics. We've been the suckers for too long. And what they should be doing is fighting for our vote as a people, not trying to crash their parties. We should have them saying what we're going to do to get our vote as a people, not trying to get us to join their parties. That's the thing. They get these Negroes who are athletes, comedians, actresses, and entertainment altogether, that the election is not going to affect, and tell us that we should join their parties. Shills. That's what we need to stop listening to. These shills, Democratic or Republican. They try to get us to join a party, not come together as a people. Anybody telling you that we should join our enemies instead of coming together as a people, that is irresponsible. And that's your damn enemy.
It takes office and the situation starts to spiral out of control. The elites are terrified that the country's institutions could be torn apart, while the people on the ground see this as the real chance for real lasting change. Here's where it gets really interesting. The president in the book isn't just about policies. He's become a symbol, a figurehead for a movement that goes far beyond politics. It's not just about power. It's about giving a voice to the voiceless. And whether you agree with Donald Trump or not, there's no denying that his rise to power carried many of the same themes: upsetting the establishment, fighting for the working class, and promising to shake up the status quo. One of the most striking themes in The Last President is the looming financial collapse that comes shortly after the president takes office. In the novel, as soon as the outsider is elected, the wealthy elites panic. The stock market crashes, businesses shut down, and banks begin to fail. Wall Street is thrown into complete chaos. People are literally fighting on the floors of the stock exchange, trying to protect their wealth as everything spirals out of control. In the book, this financial collapse is driven by fear. The elites are terrified that the new president's policies, focused on helping the common man, will destroy their grip on wealth and power. They begin pulling their money out of the stock market, hoarding resources, and causing a ripple effect that leads to an economic disaster. This collapse hits the working class the hardest, leaving millions of people without jobs, homes, or savings. Now, I'm not saying we're on the verge of this type of scenario, but there are some real concerns today that echo the novel's depiction of economic instability. With rising inflation, markets reacting to political uncertainty, and a widening gap between the rich and the poor, the financial landscape today feels more fragile than ever. Whether you look at the volatility in the stock market, the looming national debt, or the rising cost of living, there's a sense that something big could give way. And here's where it gets even more interesting. In The Last President, this financial collapse isn't just about money, it's about control. The elites in the book want to protect their wealth, but more importantly, they want to maintain their power over the country. They'll do whatever it takes, even causing an economic crisis, to hold on to that control. It's a reminder of how deeply intertwined money and power are, both in the novel and in real life. Today, we see similar dynamics at play where financial markets react not just to economic policies, but to political uncertainty and power struggles. The next president will face serious economic challenges, and how those are handled could have a lasting impact on the country's financial future. Now, here's where The Last President gets its name and where things start to feel a little unsettling. The novel hints at a collapse, not just of the financial system, but of the entire political structure. As the unrest and chaos grow, there's a sense that the country may not survive in its current form. And the book asks a haunting question. Could this president be America's last? Could this be the moment where the system breaks down for good? It's a question that feels strangely relevant today. As we look ahead to the upcoming election, whether Trump wins or not, there's an underlying tension that feels hard to ignore. Political divisions are deeper than ever. Trust in the government is an all-time low, and people on both sides of the aisle are questioning the future of American democracy. Could we be nearing a point where the system fundamentally changes forever? Now, I'm not here to make predictions or push conspiracy theories, but The Last President does raise some thought-provoking questions about what happens when political instability reaches a breaking point. In the book, the new president faces immense opposition from the elites and the political establishment, leading to riots, civil unrest, and even whispers of a rebellion. And let's be honest, there's a sense today that something similar is happening. The idea of America being one nation feels more distant than ever. The left and the right are pulling farther apart, and many people are losing faith in the institutions that hold the country together. Could Trump or even Kamala be the one to preside over a fundamental shift in how future America is governed? Could the political unrest we've seen over the past few years be a sign that something bigger is coming? It's a tough question to answer, but it's one worth thinking about, especially as we head into the election. If Trump wins, will he be seen as the president who disrupted the system so much that it never returns back to normal? Or if he loses, could the political divisions deepen even further, leading to the kind of instability that the novel portrays? Either way, The Last President forces us to consider the possibility that we may be living through a turning point in American history.
Going to go to the next video. These are some of the things that are happening.
I'm Katie Legrone. They came to our country to serve and
As per Donald Trump's executive orders, these are things that are happening. And some of these people some of these people who are working for ICE, for instance. Now, don't get me wrong. Those who came here and they didn't get their paperwork right, or they came here illegally, yeah, ship their ass back. Ship them back. I don't care if it's on a mass level. Ship them back. But when you have somebody who came here, who's a veteran, who fought for this country, and he show you his military papers, and you still treat him like you treat the rest of them, it's a shame. And I'm going to say it straight up. Some of these white boys love this. They love it because it reminds them of hunting. I'm not going to say what else it reminds them of.
and protect for the promise of becoming U.S. citizens. But some veterans tell me America abandoned them, and one says he was even deported. Speaking to us from an apartment in San Diego, David Barrio's American story
I came here to further my education.
Began more than 2 decades ago and nearly 10,000 miles away.
I was born in Nairobi, Kenya.
In 1998, Barrio came to America on a student visa. While here, he says, he was persuaded by an Army recruiter to enlist, promising him free school and U.S. citizenship.
I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Barrio joined, serving in the Army and eventually the Air Force Reserves.
For the love of serving the country, for the love of defending the Constitution.
But by 2007, Barrio says he was forced to leave the military after his recruiter was court-martialed and found guilty of unlawfully enlisting African national students, among them Barrio. While Army discharge papers he provided us show he was honorably discharged for an erroneous entry, Army investigative records he also provided us appear to detail how Barrio was one of dozens of Kenyan students recruited in a fraudulent enlistment scheme.
My recruiter was fraudulently recruiting internationals to meet his quota, a recruiting quota.
We reached out to the Army about the case and have not heard back. But what happened to Barrio after he left the military inspired him to talk about it publicly.
It's difficult to explain what reasoning they used to justify my deportation.
Barrio, who thought he was legally enlisted when he joined the military, was stripped of his military certification and VA card and deported back to Kenya. But not before he says he also spent a year detained in a Texas migrant detention center.
I don't know if they were trying to make me give up. I don't know if they were trying to radicalize me and make me fight the system or say bad things about the United States.
Barrio is among an unknown number of U.S. veterans who honorably served in America's armed forces, but then got deported without the American citizenship and other benefits they claim they were promised.
This problem is so big that the federal government itself doesn't even know the scope of the problem.
The rarely talked about issue highlighted by the Veterans Law Practicum at UC Berkeley in this recent report titled Broken Promises.
Despite being required to do so, they are not tracking the number of veterans they deport. There are requirements in place saying that military service is supposed to be taken into account during immigration proceedings. That rule has not been followed.
When asked for a response about deported veterans and the allegations of broken citizenship promises they face, the Department of Defense referred us to the Veterans Administration, who told us in a lengthy email they are working with the Department of Homeland Security to, quote, identify and prioritize the return of current and former U.S. military members who were removed from the United States and helping them access benefits, including immigration and naturalization assistance.
This is a veteran issue. It's not an immigration issue because we were veterans when we got deported.
In 2022, 14 years after he was deported, Barrio was allowed back into America through a new government program for deported veterans. A few months later, he finally got the U.S. citizenship.
Now I'm going to move on from this video. Indigenous people question about immigration.
The largest indigenous tribe in the U.S. says it's received concerning reports from its own people about immigration enforcement. A statement released Friday from the Navajo Nation president reads, quote, my office has received multiple reports from Navajo citizens that they have had negative and sometimes traumatizing experiences with federal agents targeting undocumented immigrants in the Southwest. Statement goes on to say, quote, we encourage individuals to remain calm and assured that our collaborative efforts with local, state, and federal law enforcement are ongoing to ensure community safety. Crystalline Curley joins us now from Window Rock, Arizona. She's the speaker of the Navajo Nation Council. Crystalline, thank you for being here. What are you hearing from Navajo citizens about their...
Exactly, milestone thoughts. But we have to understand also, when we speak about, some of these people, like from different lands, in particular Africa, I don't rock with the out of Africa theory myself. I don't. But I'm going to say this. We have to be careful when we call people tethers when they don't display that behavior, because being a tether is a behavior. Being from somewhere else doesn't automatically make you a tether. It don't. Tethering is undermining our efforts, coming here, undermining us, siding with our enemies, aligning themselves with us, taking and not giving. That's a tether. A culture vulture is a tether. Someone who want to be seen with us, but don't form no camaraderie with us. They want us to share our connections and share what we have with them, and they're not giving to us, that's a tether. Tethering is a behavior. It's not merely being from somewhere else. Some of us will call somebody a tether as an insult, when that is not even what a tether is. Not just being from somewhere else. Well, hell, we got some born and raised in the United States among us who are tethers. So we got to be careful and stop calling people out their names when it's not warranted. Because we could be running people away from us that really rock with us. So we got to be careful. And we also got to watch them on a protracted period and make sure that who they say they are and prove themselves trustworthy to be among us. Because a lot of time when we form these coalitions, we have the sentiment of a coalition, and they don't feel the same about us. We got to make sure that they feel the same about us before we call other people our brothers and sisters, because they may not feel that way about us.
Their interactions with officers.
So we started getting reports as of last week from many of our Navajo individuals who live in metropolitan areas of Phoenix, Albuquerque, Los Angeles, Florida, Chicago, New York, and many of our Navajo people do live off the Navajo Nation. So we've been getting reports that many of them have been visited at their place of residence or their workplaces, being asked for identification or being racially stereotyped by ICE or law enforcement.
So do you get the sense that community members are being targeted, or are they essentially, we were hearing from Camila Montoya Galvez, our immigration reporter, that police are also making collateral stops or collateral arrests, meaning as they're looking for other people, they're stopping a wide range of people. What is the sense that you're getting of what's going on?
We're getting a mixture of different issues. First, going back to the validity of our certificate of Indian blood, and if we're really tribal members with valid IDs. And there's also instances where many of our people are frustrated that they're being racially profiled. So there's numerous factors that we're dealing with right now in application.
What conversations are you having to make sure that this stops?
Right now, both the executive and the legislative branch, both from the Navajo Nation, have been reaching out to both state and federal.
Going to move on from there. This is the last video of the evening.
Lately, I have seen a lot of videos of Black people making fun of Mexicans for what's happening right now with Mexican people. I have also seen Black people make videos talking about Mexicans. Don't come to us for help because we're not helping. First of all, Mexicans are not alone. Black people, what?
Listen to this fool right here. Now, this man mocked us over deportations. He mocked us. And that's the thing. A lot of these Latinos and Hispanics, they share the sentiment of the so-called white supremacists, and a lot of them are in white supremacist groups. And these are the same people who are Trumpers. Again, I ask, how's that working out for them being a Trumper? And he's mocking us over deportations, trying to tell us that it could happen to us. And this is literally over our dead body, that it could happen to us, literally. It'll be hell on earth they try some foolishness like that.
Makes you think that Mexicans are gonna come running to y'all for help. What for? Y'all black people can't even help yourselves. Y'all black people can't even help yourselves. That's wild. Mexican people are hardworking people. Mexican people stick together.
92% of black women in this country voted for Kamala Harris. 83% of black men in this country voted for Kamala Harris. We are by far the main and probably the only race that was literally pushing to save every single other demographic who is not white in this country. You might want to take the bass out your voice and show a little bit more respect.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing amazing. So on our today's episode, we're looking at this video of these Mexican men who felt that it was right for him to come on social media, on his TikTok account, and call out black people. The reason is because he thinks that black people are happy that his community is getting deported and
Greetings, Shawanda Williams. Thanks for tapping in.
counted by ICE agents in the United States of America. And the saddest part about this thing is that these people were promised that there was going to be a mass deportation come the first day of Trump's in office of his presidential in 2025. And no one believed. Instead, they were all out there making videos criticizing and insulting black people because black people was telling them on who to vote for, on what to not to vote for, on what policies not to vote for, and also not to vote against their own personal interest. But they still went on ahead and actually voted in big numbers, especially the Hispanic men. And these men had the audacity to come on social media and feel like he has every right to insult black people. But it didn't stop there. You know, you cannot just come for black people. You cannot just sit there and, you know, decide this is what I'm gonna go online and do and say whatever is in my mind. So black people had to respond to this. I want us to watch these videos together. Every clip and every stitch that you'll be seeing on our today's episode, credit belongs to the original creators of these videos. If you're coming across this channel for the first time, my good name is Gracie D. Kindly consider subscribing to this channel. Give this video a like. Let me know what your thoughts are on the comments section. Let's dive right ahead to today's video and we'll come back with more commentary.
Lately, I have seen a lot of videos of black people making fun of Mexicans for what's happening right now with Mexican people. I have also seen black people make videos talking about Mexicans. Don't come to us for help because we're not helping. First of all, Mexicans are not alone. They have Honduran people, they have Salvadorian people, they have Guatemalan people, they have Nicaraguan people.
And you all could have a nice conversation on your way back, getting dropped off to where you came from. So you're not alone being deported. Yeah, that's a fact.
And a whole bunch of other countries that are willing to join forces with the Mexican people. Black people, what makes you think that Mexicans are going to come running to y'all for help? What for? Y'all black people can't even help yourselves. That's wild. Mexican people are hardworking people. Mexican people stick together. They make it work. That's the total opposite of a black person. You want to call me racist? Go right ahead. I'm just keeping it real. Like I said, Mexican people are not alone. They have all of us. What makes you think that a Mexican will say, oh, okay, well, we have the blacks. Let's go to them. Come on now. Y'all don't even trust each other. What makes you think that a Mexican will trust you if you don't even trust your brother? Get your popcorn ready and watch how Mexicans make this work. Black people, what makes you think that Mexicans are going to come running to y'all for help? What for? Y'all black people can't even help yourselves. That's wild. Mexican people are hardworking people. Mexican people stick together.
92% of black women in this country voted for Kamala Harris. 83% of black men in this country voted for Kamala Harris. We are by far the main and probably the only race that was literally pushing to save every single other demographic who is not white in this country. You might want to take the bass out your voice and show a little bit more respect. If it wasn't for black men and black women, especially black women, we wouldn't have had a chance to even beat Donald Trump. And because more than half of your people voted against their best interests, you guys wouldn't be put in this predicament in the first place. If you had just listened to black people to begin with, y'all wouldn't be here to begin with. Now, I agree with you. It's absolutely disgusting that anybody, black, white, doesn't matter, sitting here making jokes about ICE and deporting people. I think it's disgusting. I agree. But don't you ever in your life think it's okay to fix your lips to say anything about black people like that, especially when we were the main ones trying to save everybody. Everybody. Our women tried to tell you what to do. We advised it. None of you listened. You guys cared more about your proximity to.
And if you both would have listened to someone with a solid mind, you wouldn't even indulge in America's politics altogether. You would say, look, I don't like neither choices, but somebody made you think that you have to choose. And you chose, which is outright ignorance and irresponsible. Very irresponsible.
To whiteness, then saving your children, saving your women, saving your parents and grandparents, etc., etc. Before you fix your lips to sit here and say, oh, black people don't know how to band together, we did. We band together more than every other race in this country when it mattered the most. And y'all still failed us. Clock that T and wake it up.
And that's the crazy part, to come together to feel that we're going to elect a benevolent politician that will act on our behalf, instead of saying, you know what, we're going to come together and do something about our own damn condition. But no, we'll come together for a damn election, instead of coming together and saying, you know what, we're all we have, and we're going to make it happen for ourselves. But we come together for that. Two untrustworthy ass politicians they put before us told our people that we have to choose between the two of them. And some of us chose like total damn idiots.
Lately, I have seen a lot of videos of black people making fun of Mexicans.
I remember you. I do. About 3 years ago, you made a video about black people, unprovoked. You see, you told us black people that we were jealous of you. You told us that we did not work hard, unprovoked. You told us that we did not stick together, unprovoked. It would seem that you have a history of attacking one specific group of people. So here you are again, not wanting to follow the example of black people voting overwhelmingly together against oppression. No. You are here telling us that even though we did that, we don't stick together still. So what do you call it when you're more...
Which is total idiocy, because he said sticking together and voting against oppression. As if, and it's crazy for us to even suggest that voting for either one of these people would suppress our oppression, when it's totally up to us. It's not up to a politician. It's enough of us to pull ourselves up out of wherever we're in. Whatever we're in, it's enough of us to pull ourselves out of it. Again, we have over $1 trillion that circulate through this economy yearly. 1 trillion. That's more money than a lot of nations that our people alone have in this country. And we feel like we're supposed to be voting for a politician as if either party will have something tangible for our people when it's totally up to us. And I don't know if it'll be my lifetime that we will finally figure it out, that it's totally up to us. And nobody in a political office is going to do it for us. What it's going to take is the safety nets taken from under us. That's what it's going to take. Whatever that is, taken from under us, and we'll be made to fend for ourselves. But as long as there's somebody that we think we can run to, that's a safety net. And if we want to see our people really, as they say, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, tie them joints up, and get to work, that's what it's going to take. That safety net pulled from under us.
We're mad at the people that said you shouldn't vote against yourself. Then you are the uncomfortable amount of Hispanic people that voted against themselves. That's called anti-blackness. But you have a good day.
Lately, I have seen a lot of videos of black people making fun of Mexicans.
Oye, burro, no nos importa. Eres racista. That unity that you were talking about, explain this. A lot of times y'all like to talk about black people and not working hard and we don't have any unity and things like that. But when you look at these exit polls, it appears that black people were, for the most part, on one band and one sound. But when it comes to Hispanic people, Mexicans, as you can see, Latino men were not unified with you. Latino women, give or take. But the men, they definitely wanted to see you struggle. They definitely wanted to see this happen. And you get on Pootie Tang's internet and starts blaming black people, saying that we're teasing you and we don't want to help you. And then you turn around and say that, you know what I'm saying, we are the opposite of you. We don't work hard and we don't have any unity.
It's this with a lot of the Latinos and the Hispanics. It's that the fact that we are delineating and we have stopped helping them after helping them for so long. That's the main problem. I used to think that there was a coalition between us. I used to think like that years ago, 20 plus years ago, but I see it's not. I see it's not. That, you know, black and brown, so-called black and brown coalition. I see it's not a coalition with us. And when you tell someone yes for a long time, and one day you just say no, that angers people who's used to being told yes. This is what's happening with them. They're used to being told yes.
Unity, motherfucker. Do you even know who you're talking to? Who you're referring to when you get out here on these TikTok streets and start running your mouth? Let's get into it. You wouldn't have what you have today had it not been for the struggle and the blood of black people that was spilled on the street fighting for your rights. You wouldn't. Whatever it is that you think you have, whatever it rights and privileges that you think you have within these borders would not exist had it not been for Black people. I don't even want to get into the motivation for why a lot of us voted for VP Harris, because her policies were anti-mass deportation, anti-xenophobia, anti-homophobia, anti all of the shit that you're seeing unfolding before you. We weren't voting for her simply because she was a Black woman. We were voting for her because her policies aligned with who we were as a people. And who we are as a people is humane and empathetic. We may have some internal issues, but when it comes to how we feel about how the world works and how other people are suffering and struggling, we are one band, one sound. We don't want to see people go through what we've gone through and what we continue to go through. So we vote according to those politicians who may pander at times or whose policies align with our views and our humanity.
It's beyond pandering. Beyond pandering. Politicians, they pander, but they do more lying than pandering. This is the problem I have with people telling half truths. Kamala Harris is not one of us. Kamala Harris lies. Outright lies. That's not pandering when you tell an outright lie. But this, this guy seemed to think that she was an ally to us. I will put her in the same category as I will put Trump or any other politician. But I'm gonna land my plane right there. I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. If you haven't, get yourself a copy of my wife's book, Fire. The link is pinned in the chat at Amazon on paperback or Kindle. Get yourself a copy of my wife's book, Fire. Again, the link is in the chat. And Fire 2 will be out shortly, on its way. Get yourself a copy. If you want some good reading, if you like to read some good reading, get yourself a copy of my wife's book, Fire. I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. I appreciate it. Before I go, I'm going to play the Fire trailer.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Peace to everyone in the chat, my brothers and sisters. Have a safe and pleasant night. Until next time, this is The Enemy's Public, and I am Brother Nasir. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section. Peace.